Mike Radich here, and I'm now joined on the phone by MMA Veteran Clay Davidson. Clay, how are you?
I'm excellent. How are you doing today?
I'm doing good. Thanks for asking. Clay, you got a fight coming up December 12th at Hard Knocks Fighting Championship 40. How's training been going for the fight?
It's been going good. It's a little different. I was kind of thinking about staying at 185, and now as I'm getting older, I'm kind of committed to 205 a little bit more, so I've really been focused on putting on some weight, putting on some size. I still wouldn't shut the door to fighting at 185 down the road because, good opportunities. I just love good fights, and I'm not going to say no to a good opportunity. But I think most likely I'm going to stay at 205. So it's been enjoyable eating what I want, and I always eat healthy, but it's nice to be able to just have a little extra, have dessert instead of just having salad for dinner. So it's been it's been good that way, and the training's been going great. We had Shane Shaolin Campbell has joined my gym in Kelowna, Toshido. So having Canada's best kickboxer and / MMA fighter join your gym is always awesome. It just picks the gym right up.
Definitely. Now, where did you say you were training at nowadays?
I'm in Toshido MMA mostly. I teach in Penticton here too at Goes. Toshido is where Rory McDonald started.
Right.
And then and now Matt Dwyer is out of there too. He fights in the UFC now. So yeah, I just get up there twice a week, usually 3 times a week, because I'm actually down in Penticton, and I run a little gym out of here, Goes BJJ it's called. So I got a few buddies down here that I train with also. Obviously I'm training on my own quite a bit too. So
right, I hear you. Now, didn't you leave Toshido for a while?
I did. It was a good learning experience and growing experience for me. It was good. It was really what I needed to do. I just kind of got myself in a little bit of a rut. Was just squeaking by, and just had to go try something new. And I went out and tried some different things, and I really enjoyed it in Calgary. And then I went to Lethbridge. I enjoyed it in both those places. But my wife's in Penticton, so I was naturally drawn back here. And she has a business, so it wasn't like she was going to up and move to where I was at. And, and then me and Dave kissed and made up. Dave Lee, the head coach at Toshido, and,
right.
He welcomed me back, and life's been great ever since.
Okay, I hear you. Now, how long have you been back there?
I'm thinking it's like, I got to be moving in on, I was going to say, a year, 2 years, something like that. I've been back a while now. 2 years, I think we're looking at.
Okay. So it's been a little while. Now, I'm just curious. You mentioned weight earlier. You were talking about how you're fighting at 205 now. So I'm just curious, food-wise, what are some foods that now, since you're fighting at a higher weight class, you're not having to give up that you really enjoy eating?
Well, I'm mostly eating the same thing. I eat super healthy. I have... over the years, I've just discovered that I gotta eat healthy to produce good and to feel good at the gym. And I eat really clean, but I'm eating a lot more. That's the thing that I'm really enjoying. My diet hasn't really changed, but it's just the quantity. So, and I eat lots of sushi. And just try and keep it super clean, super raw if I can. I never try and, if I can eat like salads or fresh fruit, I prefer that over canned or whatever else too.
Right. I see.
Yeah.
Now, what do you think you gain from fighting at a higher weight class? A lot of fighters always say a variety of different things, but what's the main thing that you've gained at fighting at a higher weight class? Has it been actual stuff in the cage, or is it just stuff like preparing for fights?
I think it's I'm strong, and so it doesn't really matter for me at 205 that way. The guys are a bit more monsters, and they definitely hit a little bit harder, but it's definitely slower. And the cardio isn't as good. And I find in all weight classes, if if you go out and watch the 115s or like those 125 guys fight, they are the most technical.
Mm-hmm.
They are. I don't care what anyone says, right? And then you go up to heavyweight, and they're awesome and they're wicked, but they're the least technical. You know what I mean? It has to be that way. That's just the way humans work, right?
Right.
And it's the same at 205. The guy's jiu-jitsu isn't as tight. If I get guys down on the ground, they're in a lot of trouble.
Mm-hmm. Mm-hmm.
And at 185, I was finding guys still very strong. Mind you, some of the guys I fought at 185 did not make weight. So, you know what I mean? The one guy was way over by like 7 pounds, and I couldn't believe how strong he felt, but he was over by 7 pounds too. So it's kind of weird, and people always think you want to go down and it's going to be an advantage, right? Everyone, you see fighters all the time, they get on a losing streak. Oh, I'm going to go down to the lower weight class and I'm going to kill everyone. But it's fighting, and fighting is so much more complicated than that. And I think it depends on your strengths and weaknesses. And I'm slow, and I find those 185 guys, they're fast. And when you're feeling slow in a fight, that's not a good feeling. Mm-hmm. And at 205, I feel okay. I don't feel fast. I don't feel slow. I just feel in the middle of the pack, I guess.
Mm-hmm. Mm-hmm. Now, how many fights would you say that you didn't do your best because of the weight class you were fighting in? Like you touched on a little bit earlier. You said sometimes guys blame the weight class.
It's hard to say. It's hard to say because it's I definitely I've had some really hellish weight cuts and won. You know what I mean? I've had some hellish weight cuts and lost. I've had some no weight cut. You know what I mean? It's
right.
Kind of all over the place, and it's hard to say. You know what I mean? I have always gone into my fights. I've always made weight. I've gone always in prepared. I'm always mentally there. I'm never, guys talk about how they're beat before they're in the cage. That ain't me, man. I'm going in there and I'm trying my damnedest to win. And, even when Jesse Taylor beat the tar out of me for 3 rounds, that whole fight, I knew I was just hoping he'd make a mistake. Obviously he didn't. You know what I mean? And he crushed me. But, I was in there the whole time. I just make a mistake. I'll make you pay for it. You know what I mean? Mm-hmm. And that's how I'm in all my fights. So, I always feel in it, I guess. Even if it's a bad day or a good day.
Mm-hmm. In all your fights, whether you won the fight or you lost the fight, have you always been able to say after the fight, have you always been able to look yourself in the mirror and say, you know what, I might not have won that fight, but I gave it my all. I left it all in the cage.
Oh, for sure. I'm definitely one of those guys. You always see stuff in hindsight, right? Like I always use the Drysdale example. I went into that fight so well prepared. I'd done everything. I was mentally in a good spot. I honestly thought I was going to beat that guy. I went out there, I felt pretty close. Like I felt him stand up. I almost, I clipped him pretty good, but it obviously ended up, and then we end up on the mat, and then before you know it, you're in an armbar, and I fought that armbar off for a long time. And in hindsight, I probably should have spent more time on armbar defense. Mm-hmm. But, I didn't know that that's how the fight was going to go. You know what I mean? Like, I was worried about his darce, and I was worried about his guillotine, and I was worried about his triangle. You know what I mean? So, you just got to go in there, try and leave it all in there. And, we all as fighters, anyone who's fought knows, there's always these little moments in a fight. You see them in the gym, too, and it's like, whoa, that could have been the end of my day. You know what I mean? There's always those little here's and there, so it's a crazy thing in there.
Right. But that's good. That's good that you've always been able to not have regrets after a fight. Like, I should not.
For sure. Like I said, there's always those. When I got slammed by Cody Cran too. Obviously, if I could do it over again, I would have done something different.
Yes, definitely.
But I went in there, knowing I could beat him, and I was going to throw my best foot forward. I think, and that's how you have to be. And I think guys that aren't really feeling like that in the fight game, it's maybe not for them. Mm-hmm. I think you should pick up another sport because it's just so difficult. Fights are so hard to come by. You know what I mean? And the pay is just like pathetic, basically. Mm-hmm. you know?
Yeah.
But it is what it is, you know? Like, when you get in this sport, when young kids get into when I got into it, I knew the pay was bad. No one, when I got into MMA, no one told me that I was going to make millions of dollars. But I still love it, that's for sure.
Yeah.
But you got to, that's what I mean, you know, you guys should be doing it for the right reasons, I guess is basically what I'm saying.
Right. Well, yeah, I mean, that's what it's all about. You know, if you love the sport and you keep doing it, you do well, eventually the money will come. There's a lot of these guys who they thought they were going to get a ton of money, fought a couple of times, and then didn't see the money and left. You know, they were only in it for money. So it's good that, you know, you love it and you're going to keep doing it regardless of the pay. So I like hearing that. I don't really like these guys who dwell too much on the money and all that kind of stuff.
Yeah. Obviously, it's frustrating because you know what I mean. And like, man, I got 3 jobs. Mm-hmm. You know what I mean? And that doesn't include my professional fighting. You know what I mean? I have 3 jobs to just get by, along with my fighting. You know what I mean? And so it's tough. But at the end of the day, I choose to do it. You know what I mean? I could do a million. I could go to the rigs. You know what I mean? That's where I live here. That's what everyone does. You need money, you go work on the rigs. Mm-hmm. Like, I'd way rather be doing this and struggling than that, than rich.
Mm-hmm. I guess I'm kind of in the same boat. You know, I'm not making a whole lot of money here, but I love the sport, so I can't, you know.
There's something to be said about loving what you do, right? And I grew up around that. My dad was a hockey coach. And he's always made really good money, too, like, on top of it. Well, eventually. Like, I remember when we were kids, he was volunteering, basically. You know what I mean? I think you get gas money. You know what I mean? Like, you get, like...
Yeah.
But, you know, by the time, you know, now he's a GM in the Western Hockey League, you know, he does very well. You know what I mean? And it's all from just following his passion. You know what I mean? He didn't want a job where he loved going to the rink every morning. Mm-hmm. You know what I mean? I've seen that every day. He'd wake up in the morning and loved going to the rink. Kind of like how I feel about going to the gym, though, too. You know, I love it. Let's go. Where else would there? Where's a better place to hang out than at the gym or in the cage? You know. Yeah,
definitely. I hear you. It's
to each his own too. Obviously, some people would hear that and be like, "Oh, you're fucking crazy," which I get. I can. You know, when people say like, you know, what you do is crazy. Yeah, kind of. You know, I'm not gonna really argue that. But you know, what you like is what you like.
Right. You've been in the sport for a while now. Is the same reason you're in the sport the same reason that keeps you in the sport?
Yeah, for me, the biggest thing when people ask questions about why I do it, I love to compete. I'm super competitive. And I grew up with brothers, you know, or with a brother, and we were super competitive. He was 3 years older than me, and he always smashed me, and no matter what we did, he dominated me, right? He was bigger, stronger, and I love the conditioning aspect of it. Like, we're the best athletes, like, for, you know what I mean? Really, well, everyone is their best. You know, don't get me wrong. Like, I can't do what, you know, Jerry Rice does. Or,
right.
You know what I mean? Right. Like, everyone has their own. But when we're talking about 15 minutes of, like, or 25, I guess, if it's a title fight, of, like, fighting, like, actual sparring, there's nothing more intense than that for a workout than I can think of.
Right.
I'm sure there is maybe something like climbing Mount Everest. Get off there. Sorry, my dog's on the table.
That's okay.
And, you know, there is, but, yeah.
Right. You bring up a good point. You know, MMA, like in football, you bang heads for, you know, 10 or 15 seconds, and then there's a little bit of break, and then most guys don't play both sides of the ball. You know, like Jerry Rice doesn't play corner on defense.
Yeah, well, and in every sport, you know, and even like some of those, like, I always say, like, baseball players, like, if you're a DH, like, really, do you do that much? Like, I played baseball. If you're a DH and you're just hitting, you're basically doing nothing, right? Like, but you also, if you're catching in baseball, that's a pretty hard day.
Right.
You know what I'm saying? So, like, you know, it always got this little its and bits, but when you talk fighting, like, you know, it's crazy, like, how tired we get now, like, it's just, and it's so like we've wrestled and fought forever. You know what I mean? Like, as humans, like, it's such a, like,
Dana White,
like, you know, it's where we started, right? Like, king of the block, king of the mat, like I'm tougher than you.
Yeah.
Let's compete.
Yeah.
Let's try and make each other tap out.
Yeah. Dana White says it all the time. Fighting's in our DNA, and truer words have never been spoken. That's 100% right.
And it's funny how everyone gets drawn to MMA too, because these guys boxers and stuff, because it truly is, and if you just want to watch two guys stand and chug, then go to K1. You know what I mean? The reason MMA is so popular, or tends to be so popular, it truly is the closest you can get to a street fight, basically.
Right.
You know what I mean? It's the purest form of combat. It's the closest you can get to, without, and that's the thing when my first fight, dude, I was fighting Dwayne Lewis, and I had no idea what I was getting myself into, and I was, way over my head. And I remember thinking, I'd been in lots of street fights. I knew that there was refs and the rules. You know what I mean? It's it's a really safe way to, do something crazy. You know what I'm saying? It's wicked, I guess is what I'm saying.
That's what drew me into MMA, because I remember wrestling, growing up, being like, you know what, if there were punches...
Dude, I was a huge wrestling fan, old WWF, man. Oh, I was the hugest fan.
Yeah.
I grew up saying I was going to be a wrestler, you know what I mean? I wanted to be a WWE wrestler, and then I think I was probably about 20, and I thought, it just seemed too fake,
Right.
And then I, slowly got more interested in UFC and MMA, and then it went over to that.
Mm-hmm. I never really was a boxing fan, but MMA just piqued my...
But when Tyson was smashing everyone, do you remember that? How old are you?
I'm not old enough for that.
Oh, yeah. I was around when Tyson was killing everyone. That was pretty exciting.
Yeah, Tyson was killing people, I think, a couple of years, 3 or 4 years at least before I was born. I don't really know.
Yeah. He was. I remember that. Everyone was talking about it.
Right. And maybe that's the disconnect. If I had been born, if I was 12 or 13 when Tyson was killing all these guys, maybe I would have a different outlook on everything. But I wasn't around then.
No, well, that's part of it, right? And that's huge, right? And you see lots of guys, right? It's funny too. Sometimes, I'll be talking about to other MMA fighters, and you're talking about some legendary fight, and they'll be like, "Oh, I've never seen that," and I'll be like, "What?" You've never seen, and they'll be like, "Who's Sakuraba?" They don't even know who Sakuraba is. It's really, you don't know who's, but it's all where you grow up and what you see and what you do, right? Some people, I guess, don't know who Sakuraba is. I know who Sakuraba is.
Right.
You know what I'm saying?
Yeah. About MMA, it's easy for me because, I started watching it very young. I think I was 10 or 11 when I started watching it. So I know all the MMA guys, and plus the sport, how I like to look at it is really, 1993, Hoist Gracie and all that stuff, but really the MMA that we're exposed to now really is from 2001, really.
Yeah,
with the rules
for sure.
Yeah,
the beginning was so even you look back at those old tapes, it was just kind of the way they looked at each other, what is... And even, you think back to, you watch some of those old ones, and it makes me laugh, because one guy will be a kickboxer,
right,
and the other guy will be a boxer, and they'll say go, and they'll run into the middle, and they'll hug each other, and then they'll, roll to the ground. You know what I mean?
Yeah.
They don't even stand and bang.
Right.
Because, back in the day, you don't even, there was kickboxing and boxing, but you didn't do that in bare knuckles in a cage where you could actually take... when the rules change, it changes so much, right? That's what makes K1, these guys that are killing everyone in K1 and then they come over and suck. It's because it's different when you get taken down. It's a whole new... I train with that, I would think of that Jordan Mean. I've trained with him out of Lethbridge. He fights in the UFC. Mm-hmm. And, in his last fight, he fakes that takedown, fakes a single, and goes up with a hook to the head. You can't do that in kickboxing. You know what I mean? You're not pulling your leg back for the takedown. You know what I'm saying? Like, so it makes it a pretty, and those guys were so at the beginning, they didn't know what they were doing.
Right. You'll see guys
basically silly. You know what I mean? It was basically silly. Like, all hats off to them, no big deal, because those guys are scary dudes. Because that was like, that's terrifying. You know what I mean? Like, in the beginning, when no one knew what was going on, those guys had nuts.
Right.
Don't kid yourself for that. Every one of those guys.
Yeah.
Whether he got wrecked in 2 seconds or not, or wrecked the other guy in 10 minutes, those guys all had nuts.
Right. And no one knew what they were getting themselves into. Some people thought it was fake. Some people thought it was real.
No.
Yeah.
Who knew? But I think it goes back to what I said earlier, though, too, where it goes back in our blood, our DNA. We're fighters, right? And it's just, and it's all got to start somewhere, right? Mm-hmm. There had to be a sport that was going to tie in the striking aspect and the jiu-jitsu aspect, right? And MMA was perfect.
Mm-hmm. Mm-hmm. It's such a great sport.
And I think the rules, for the most part, today are pretty good. There's the odd little things you'd like to see. That would be nice you could eliminate or change. Some of those spiking elbow things are stupid, but I don't know.
Yeah.
For the most part, I think it's a good sport. I don't think you have to tinker with it too much.
Yeah. I mean, we're pretty close. I mean, maybe a couple tweaks here and there, and then...
that's what I think, too. And, and some of those tweaks are, like, personal preference, too, right? Like, I think when a wrestler shoots into a double leg, you should be able to knee him in the head there. Do you know what I mean, a little bit?
Right. I agree. You're taking away a weapon.
Because it would change the wrestling game a bit. It would take that advantage away from those guys. You know what I mean? It would change my wrestling game. I know that. Mm-hmm. But, whatever. That's just one little one that I think. You know what I mean? There's lots of... I think some of those spiking elbow ones can get a little silly, too. But, I don't know. Like, when Bones Jones, elbowed Hamill and he got disqualified from that elbow, was that really any different than all those other elbows he hit him with?
No. I mean, then it falls back on the referee. It's the referee's opinion.
Yeah.
So. Yeah,
I know. And for the most part, though, I think most, I know there's always exceptions, and I think I've kind of got screwed in the odd fight or something, but I'm not going to cry about it. But for the most part, I think MMA, I come from hockey, where it's so many times after a game, you just that ref just wrecked the game.
Right.
Screwed it, you know what I mean?
Right.
Rarely, and even when I felt like I got a bad call, it was just well, I thought I was okay. He didn't think I was okay. All right. Mm-hmm. You know what I mean? It's frustrating, but it wasn't it was horrible. So I think from a reffing standpoint, I think we got a pretty good sport. Most of the refs I see, too, I think they're pretty good. Mm-hmm. Pretty good. Obviously, there's a few guys jump in early, but, they're watching out for us.
Right. I'd rather have the ref jump in too early than too late. I
know. But some of these guys, too, when they're big fights, and you're trying to,
Yeah. I hear you.
It's... And nowadays, too, it's ridiculous how it works, too. You got to be 20-0 to get in the UFC. You know what I mean? One couple bad calls, and all of a sudden you're 4-2. Do you know what I'm saying?
Yeah,
it can really mess things up for you.
Yeah, there's a lot on the line, and I mean it's a very tough job, the referee.
And it's so hard to come by fights nowadays, too, dude.
Yeah,
it's you know what I mean. Between all the medicals and stuff. My last fight there, I took him 4 days' notice. How we got all the medicals done is I got to owe it to my wife, because otherwise it wouldn't have got done. Because it was just boatloads of paperwork and medical this and medical that, and my doctor's bending over backwards for me to make it happen, which he didn't have to do that. So it's the fights are tough to come by.
Yeah. And as the stakes get higher, everyone else wants in. Everyone's looking for a fight.
Yeah, and everyone to get in the UFC now, you got to be on a 6-fight winning streak, or something.
Yeah.
You get one little bump in the road there. Well, but then again, too, if you wanted to, I always say to my wife too. I said, if you want a stress-free job, then I took up the wrong gig.
Right.
You know what I mean? They took up, I'm so stressed all the time, and it's I just have to laugh because it's well, you chose this, It's nerve-wracking. Fight day, woo-wee, nerve-wracking, hanging out in the hotel waiting for that to happen. But I find once that cage door locks and the ref says, you know, you ready, go, I'm good. Mm-hmm. Right from that point on, I'm having a blast. Mm-hmm. Even in my fights where I didn't do well, for the most part, after, I would have done it over again, you know?
Mm-hmm. Definitely.
It's fun in there. It's crazy. It's quite the adrenaline rush.
Now, in terms of the nerves, have your nerves ever, have they gotten better over time, or do you still get as nervous as you did?
No, I think they're probably like hovering right around the same. You know, about the same. Like, it's funny, you almost know more now, but it's almost worse. Like, you know, like, when I first started, I didn't know a guy could, like, spinning hook head kick me or something, you know what I mean? So now that I've been hit with a few of those, like, I do know that I can get hit with those, and those would do a lot of you know what I'm saying? I don't know. It's just part of the gig, right? And I think nerves is good. Like, for me, when I'm nervous, it's good. You know, I'm sharper. You know, I know for some guys it takes over, and some guys need to be loosey goosey. I like to just be calm and a little bit nervous, and you know, enjoy the road. You know, don't say too much, which is weird for me because I'm usually talking lots. Mm-hmm. But pre-fight, just quiet down and enjoy the journey. And it's crazy too because fights fall apart at all times. It's all the crazy smallest too. So it's like you always, like, sometimes even when I fought Drysdale, there was so much first we talked about fighting him, and then he ended up fighting someone else.
Right.
But it was already in my head, right? Mm-hmm. So, you know, and I knew who Drysdale was, and I was, you know, like, I was nobody, and Robert Drysdale was God, right?
Right.
And in MMA, like, I was like, you know, like, so when the second time came up, and we booked the fight, and we signed it really early, too, like, got the contract in super early, and I was like, man, there's so much time for something not to happen.
Right.
You know what I mean? Right. But it just did, and by the time I was walking up to the ring, I was fine, like, okay, now I know it's going to happen.
Right.
Because even in the back, you never know. Guys warming up, blow their knees out all the time.
Right.
You know?
Right. That little disclaimer, card subject to change, that's like the most important term in MMA now.
Yeah, dude. And it is, like, you know, and you know, it just is a part of the, you know, and like when guys pull out last minute and stuff, you know, and you know it's usually in their head. Well, it's hard to say where, you know what I mean? You never know, right? Because sometimes, but, you know, it's usually that's just the stress piling up and you saying, no, I can't handle this. And then, you know, it's going to come often in the fight game. Mm-hmm. That's just the sad truth of it.
Definitely.
And, you know, and the weight cutting is so, you know, you're putting your body under some of these guys doing hard weight cuts too. You're putting your body under all this, like, nutritional stress, basically. And then you're, like, stressing about getting in a cage with another dude and killing him. Like, can't be that good for you.
Yeah. I hear you.
Well, maybe good for the right person. But.
Yeah, it all depends, I guess. It's personal preference, I guess.
Yeah. It is, you know, I find I kind of enjoy the stress and the journey, you know. Makes it that much more rewarding at the end.
Mm-hmm. Definitely. Now, coming up on December 12th, you're going to be taking on Rodney Wallace. What are your thoughts about him as an opponent?
It's a tough dude. I seen him fight in the UFC. I remember actually watching it on TV. I always you always take note of guys your weight class, and, you know, to really make a name for yourself in this sport, you know, you want to be beating UFC vets. Anyone knows that knows this sport. So anytime I get an opportunity to fight a guy that fought in the UFC, I'm going to jump on it. And he's tough, but I think he fights safe. And you know, anyone who knows my style knows I don't fight safe at all. And I'm coming right after him. And I don't care where the fight goes. I'll stand with him. I'll go on the ground with him. I'll be on my back with him. I'll be on top of him. I don't care. But I'm coming, and I'm coming to throw down. Calgary's basically, you know, one of my second hometowns because I was there training for a while, so I got lots of close buddies there, lots of old training partners. So I feel like I kind of got the home field advantage there, and I will be in shape and I will be prepared for whatever he's got, and I expect to put on a big show, and definitely we're the main event. Let's be the fight of the night and throw down.
This fight not only is the main event, it's also a title fight. So I'm just curious, how many belts do you have?
I don't have any. I was supposed to fight for one, and I actually broke my leg back. That would have been a few years ago now, but yeah, it'd be nice. They got a cool looking belt too, so I'm looking forward to it. And to me, the cool thing about fighting for a belt isn't really the belt, because you can go to any old grappling tournament now and get a belt, but it's the fact that you're going to fight 5 rounds, and I think that is 3 rounds is terrifying enough. 5 is woo, and just even knowing it at the gym, I know that this fight could go 5 rounds. I'm having every day, instead of quitting after 5 rounds of pads, no, it's 6, 7 rounds of pads, It's, it makes you step your game up and stuff, and looking forward to it.
After your last fight, did you have a feeling that they were going to match you and Rodney Wallace up, because you fought for Hard Knocks in October and he fought for Hard Knocks?
Yeah, well, we'd already actually been in talk about the fight. I had actually already said I'd fight Rodney. They'd already offered me for him on that card later, and then it was like a couple days later they said, hey, we might have something in a week or two for you, and then it just kind of never happened. And then 4 days out, they threw Todd Stout's name out at me, and I'm not really one to say no to fights, and they wanted to weigh higher weight, and I would go up a little bit. I said I'd go up to like 2K. Hold on, my dogs are fighting. Sorry. They said they'd go up a little bit, and I said, to 210, and it seemed reasonable to me. I don't like to make fights happen. I don't mind giving a little bit, but I find, sometimes guys really want to abuse it, right? They want like a 10 or 15 pound. You know what I mean? Like, they don't want to fight at they want to fight at 215. Well, that's way away from 205. You know what I mean? Like, it's crazy, and so at the last minute there, the fight happened at 210, and well, it was all good, worked out good. Everything. It's funny in this sport, you win and life's grand. Everything's great. You can still be short on rent, but your life's good, and you can lose, but still have a bank account full of money, and life sucks.
Right.
It's weird, and it's weird that it's so it's so cut and dry like that. But there is a lot too. Even my losses, they suck, and they're horrible. But you have to kind of enjoy them too, right? Because they're part of the journey. Find some joy in them. You can't really like losing. But you know what I mean? You got to be able to look back and be like, that was all right,
Right.
It happens. You got to be able to deal with it, right? And learn from it and grow from it.
Right.
What doesn't kill you only makes you stronger, too.
Yep.
I'm a big believer in that. Ever since I broke my leg, you kind of thought, you kind of think you're done maybe, and once I got through that, I was like, I got a lot of fight left in me.
And nobody's going to be undefeated in this sport. Matt Hughes had a quote one time saying,
I guess guys, there's always, maybe the Bones Jones is he's basically undefeated.
But at the same time, that's the beauty of the sport. There's so many different ways you can win and lose. You can get knocked out, but how did you get knocked out? Was it with an uppercut? Was it with a head kick? You got submitted? Was it a guillotine? Rear naked?
And even now too, you look at all the body knockouts.
Right. Oh yeah.
Training with that Shane Sheldon Campbell, he's always stopping guys with it's basically like a toe stab.
Right.
You know what I mean? And he's winning lots of fights by toe stab. It's crazy, man.
Yeah.
And all the submissions too. The submission game is ever evolving. You know what I mean? There's always never fails. I turn around and even that last UFC, that one guillotine choke, that grip he used, that was fairly new to me. I'd seen it before, but the first time I seen someone get put to sleep with it,
right,
pretty impressive.
And with all this judging these days, all you need is to have 2 people mark your name, and that's all that matters. You can have a whole arena think you lost, but as long as 2 people mark your name, you get the win. It's crazy.
Yeah, and it's funny, too. I think that's what puts such a value on being a finisher. Mm-hmm. You know what I mean, though, too? Because, Damian Maia, when he was finishing everyone was just, because you're definitively winning. You know what I mean? Right. It's like a win, a win, a win, a win. Decisions are just, I don't know, they're just not the same. If you can't put a guy away, like make him tap or basically make the ref stop it, it's just not. But obviously, like some of those 3-round dominations, they're still the guy lost. Some guys are just hard to put away, right?
Right.
So there is that factor too.
Right. Now, you've only seen the judges' scorecards once in your career. Besides that, all your fights, whether you've won or you lost, have been finishes. Is that your philosophy on fighting, kill or be killed?
Yeah, a little bit. But obviously, you know what I mean. My biggest thing is I just want to go in there and win. That's what I'm just looking to do, and if get in trouble, just survive long enough to get the win. You know what I mean? I just think I'm just aggressive, and I just really go after it. You know what I mean? I don't want to squeak out a decision. I don't want to when I fought Caleb Starnes here, I thought the smart thing would have just to circle away and throw leg kicks at him. You know what I mean? Mm-hmm. But I was like, man, I was in my own hometown main event. I'm not going to run away from Caleb Starnes and throw leg kicks at him. I'm going to go in there, I'm going to get in his face, and I'm going to throw down, which I did, and I came up short. But that, I'd rather do it like that than, I think we're paid to be I don't think you should fight smart in there, but we're paid to be entertaining.
Right.
Let's put on a show.
Right.
You know what I mean? Now, you don't have, does that mean, that's why sometimes I get irritated because, sometimes the smart thing for me to do is to go across the ring, double leg you, put you on your back, beat you up a bit, and tap you out. And people are like, we'll just stand and bang. It's like, well, that's career suicide, right?
Right.
Just going across the cage and standing with, even my last fight, Todd Stout, he's got a kickboxing background. Why am I going to stand and trade with him? That's ridiculous. You know what I mean? And if I can't get him down, I will, of course. You know what I mean? If I can't get you down, well, what else are we going to do?
Right.
I'm gonna go out on my shield, right? But so there's that factor. But I just think it's really important to be. I think my record just kind of shows that I am what I am, and I'm just go after it. I try and make it happen, and I think finishes are exciting. I think when you definitively make that guy tap, or you can put him out with a knock, in those spinning back head kicks and stuff, when you knock out a dude like that, that's a win. Mm-hmm.
Yeah. And it's so addictive, watching someone get knocked out. Obviously I'm on a different side of the table because I don't fight, but I just love. I can never get tired of that. It's just there's something about it.
I know, it's
seeing those knockouts. I've seen a million, but I can't.
I think when we used to be cavemen or something, I think that's where that one goes back to. Yeah, it's good. Right. I enjoy it too.
Right. Now, you have 2 fights with Cody Cron. It's 1-1 right now. You had that fight in MFC with him where you lost by slam, but you also defeated him in 2013. You subbed him with a guillotine choke in a small regional show.
Man. We really beat the tar out of each other that night.
Are you open to a 3rd fight? Is that something that we could see in the future?
Yeah, of course. I'm not going to, basically if I don't train with you or you're not a buddy of mine, I do have a few buddies in the sport, Brendan Kornberger, Ryan Mahan, stuff like that, where I'm not fighting those guys. You can't pay me enough. I'm not fighting them. You know what I mean? We train together. We're buddies. I like them. I don't want to fight them. There's lots of other people for me to fight. You know what I'm saying?
Right.
And, but Cody is, he's not from my gym, you know what I mean? He's from a different gym, and we're not, I'm cool with him. I love the guy. I have nothing but the utmost respect for him. But if someone offers me a fight with Cody Cran and a payday,
right?
Of course I'm going to say yes.
Right. I hope it happens.
Especially a guy who beat me like that last week. That's not, I think I'm capable of a better fight than that. But my hat's off to him too. He made, he did the smart thing right there and put me away and has, But yeah, the fighter in me, and we're 1-1, right? Like
right.
It's like,
right.
I don't know. It's a little bit different if one of us was 2-0, but when you're 1-1, I guess you kind of got to do what you got to do. But I'm not really like, by no means am I calling out Cody.
Right.
I'm just going to be straight up with that. I'm not calling him out. It's not a fight that I'm chasing. I don't really chase too many fights. I find, and I don't, I'm not really into the calling out thing or anything like that. So just if someone wants to fight, I think it's funny though too. There's lots of guys out there who'll be like, nobody will fight me, and it's like, no, nobody you want to fight you will fight you.
Right.
Like I know they're getting offered me. The promoters are telling me. Hey, I keep offering you to this guy, but he keeps saying no, and then he's on Facebook saying, oh, no one will fight me.
Right.
Like, yeah, man.
Yeah.
Which is lame. But it's funny and it's funny, too, but I guess it's kind of a baby of the UFC because everyone needs to be, 10-1, 10-0. So guys are really picking their fights. You know what I mean? Like, there's not too many gyms. Like, man, I guess Lethbridge is still kind of like that. CMC, they'll just fight anyone. They're just fearless that way. But a lot of these other gyms are just, that's why their guys are only having a couple fights because they're just being so picky who they fight, Which is understandable, too, because, you should protect your fighters. You know what I mean? I know there's some times where, no matter where I've been in Lethbridge or Calgary or Kelowna where, I was getting advice where that's not what I wanted to do, and they're like, oh, you shouldn't fight that guy, and it's like, no, I want to fight that guy,
Right. But
that's their job, right, to protect you, so I guess it's a good thing, but it's a bad thing in a way, too, because I find so many guys nowadays are just, instead of just going out there and fighting, they're worried about losing, you know what I mean, so when you're worried about losing, instead of just going out there and fighting, it can kind of bung you up, I think. Bung up your progression, too. I find lots of these guys, they got so few fights. You need fights for experience, man. Experience is huge. As I get older in this sport, man, and even just training, like when I train with the young 20-year-olds, they're young and strong and athletic. I train with Justin Doige. He's 21. He just want to fight on the BFL like he is like, but I am, I got to use my experience a little bit,
Right.
You get those young guys. Experience is a huge thing, and if you're rarely fighting, you're not getting that experience. And it's hard to stay too. If you're the more active you are, the better overall condition you're gonna stay in.
Right.
You know what I mean?
Mm-hmm.
If you're taking off huge stretches of time, your conditioning, it just, I'm never out of shape. I'm in shape 12 months of the year. I can take a fight any time of the year, basically. Mm-hmm. I'm always in fight shape. Well, obviously it goes up and down. Obviously, I'll be in better shape December 12th than I will be December 15th or 20th. But for the most part, if you're constantly active, you're always in shape. How would you fall out of shape? You know what I mean? Every so often you gotta be in the shape of your life, so you're basically never out. Right.
It's very strange, the whole thing about taking fights. Obviously guys need experience, but then on the business side of things, you got to look at, okay, can I beat this guy? And if I can beat this guy, then that's going to propel me to the next level. Winning will get you to the next level. And then there's the second part of it. What does a win over this guy do for me? There's all these. Joe Silva doesn't.
What's funny about that though too? I find some guys. They talk about how bad they want to fight. Oh, I want to fight so bad. I want to fight so bad. I want to fight so bad. And then they, and then they don't want to fight this guy because basically he, who's he? And if he beats me, I get nothing out of it. And it's like, well, do you want to fight or not? Because if you want to really stay active, you're not always going to get these dream matchups. That's not how the game works, right? Sometimes, and even everyone on their record, from all the good guys I know everyone's got a few bums on their records. Mm-hmm. You know what I mean? It's just the way it is. And there's obviously going in there and knowing, looking across from the cage, that guy has nothing to lose. I have everything to lose. It's a good character builder. Mm-hmm. You know? You got to go in there and get through it.
Right.
And you know, and that's the same thing. You're just guys. They're looking for these perfect fights. Well, fuck, man. Then you're gonna never fight.
Right. It's a fight.
You're just gonna never fight.
Yeah, it's a fight. I don't know. You know, it's what it is. It is what it is, I guess. When exactly did this all start? Because nowadays, with more coverage of the sport, it's been brought to light. You know, guys picking and choosing, and guys being very careful about their fights. Was it always this way, and it just was never exposed, or has it really been something that's just come about these last couple of years?
Well, I think it's I think it's an evolution, and I think it's right. Partly due, because the sport just gets more mainstream and knowledge, but mm-hmm. partly due because UFC too, and to get there, you got to have that. You know, I remember Mitch Clark, and I remember lots of people saying, you know, Mitch Clark, who fights in the UFC now, and he's at Edmonton, he was saying, he won't fight this guy, and he won't fight that guy. People were telling me this anyways. This is right. What was coming back to me.
Right.
And but you know, he had a record of 10-1, and he got in the UFC, and I watched him fight in the UFC in Calgary. He belonged in there, man. He lost his fight. I think he blew his knee out, but he belonged in there. By all means, he belonged in there. He's not, you know what I mean. He had that sick Darce choke,
right?
And I think he got submission of the night. You know, so obviously he belongs in there, right?
Right.
So it's like, and you know, and obviously, you know, if he was just taking on every bad arse coming out of anywhere, would have he got 10-1 and gone to the UFC? Probably not. And like, you know, how can you argue with his choice? Like, basically anything that guy's done, he's done right, because he's in the big show, and you know, and he's winning fights and getting subs of the night. That's really what it's all about too. Like, when you first get into the UFC, those bonuses are everything.
Right.
That's how you make money.
Mm-hmm.
That's how Rory made money in Vancouver. You know, now they're a little bit less now too, but you know what I mean? Like, you go in there and you get fight of the night, sub of the night, or knockout of the night. Because everyone on the bottom you ain't getting nothing, man. You lose your 20%, and you know, and nowadays too, if you're in the UFC, you would be flying guys in or bringing guys in to train with.
Right.
Matt Dwyer had to bring, you know, we brought in Shaolin, and there's I think a couple other. Brendan Kornberger came down from Vancouver. You know what I mean? Like,
right.
You know, you got to do those things nowadays to compete at that level. Mm-hmm. And that still doesn't mean you're going to win.
Yeah.
You know,
right.
You know, you have a perfect camp, it doesn't mean you're going to win.
Right. You got to have, you know, all the professional athlete preparation tools, but you're not getting the professional athlete pay. It's nowhere near. And you know, I fought in a promotion. I'm not going to mention any names, but we're getting done interviews, and they were like telling us how, like, you got to say that, you know, when they ask you your occupation, that you're a fighter. Right.
And I'm thinking, well, first of all, you can't tell me how to answer fucking questions on a fucking interview.
Right.
Like, get the fuck out of here. That's lame.
Right.
And then on top of it, you're going to tell them when I work 7 days a week, I work 7 days a week just to squeak by in this sport. You know what I mean? Like, you know what I mean? You basically want us to lie so we sound more like we're making a big bunch of money. Why? Like, why lie about the money we make? We don't make shit. Sponsors are a joke. I haven't had sponsors forever. You know, I was supposed to get some mouthguard company was supposed to help me once. They fitted us for them and then never gave them to us. Mm-hmm. You know? There's really no one's really getting rich either. Like, if you look at that, like, you know what I mean? Like, you know, GSP, the title, the champs are, but right. Everyone else, like, you know, you think Greg Jackson's a millionaire? He's not a millionaire.
No.
Like, I'm sure he's got money. I'm sure he lives comfortably, and I'm sure he trains like the best athletes in the world. So I'm sure he loves his life.
Right.
But he ain't rich.
Right.
You know what I mean?
Right.
And he's the best coach in the game.
Right. Exactly.
You know what I mean? That guy should be rich.
Yeah.
That guy should be, you know what I mean? They should be like, he should, you know, compare him to boxing coaches. You know what I mean? It's like totally out of whack.
Yeah.
It's totally out of whack. And I don't understand. And it's a broken system, right? Like, these promotions aren't making You know, like especially like the promotions I'm fighting in, they're not really. It's a grind, man.
Yeah. Yeah, it's top to bottom. Everyone, you know, the promoters. Some of these guys are losing money putting on shows. You know, some guys look around. You know, hey, this will be fun. We'll just throw some fights. We'll make a bunch of money, and then they start looking at numbers and go, oh my God, we're thousands and thousands and thousands upon dollars in debt here, and just to run the show.
And you see the constant reality is too. These promotions, new promotions start up, and they have a whole bunch of fights, bunch of fight cards, right?
Right.
Well, that doesn't last. And, you know, they go from 10 their first year, then they go to 8, then they go to 3,
right,
then they go to 2, because there's so much work for so little pay.
Yeah.
And it's ridiculous the amount of time, like what you know, like we said earlier, you know, I love what I do, so don't get me wrong. And I knew when I got in this, but like if you really factored in the time I put in the gym, and then what I get paid, and then you knock off the 20%. It's nothing, man. And it's like, and it's money for a day for me. Like after a fight, I'm not stressed about money for a day.
Right.
And then I'm right back to being stressed because it's gone. Basically, I take my wife out for dinner. You know, hang out with buy my dog some new treats. You know, and then you know it's all gone. You know, but I love. You know, there's some good things too. Like you know, Lee Mean is my manager out of Lethbridge, and I love being able to give him a chunk of cash.
Right.
I love that feeling, man. I love that feeling because he's done a lot for me, and he's been really good to me, and he's an excellent corner man. So there is some cool parts about that. Like, you know, I've always thought, you know, I love being able to pay back the people that help you a little bit, you know. Especially, you know, it's funny too. You know, you lose, and you make $1,000, and you're bummed, and you win, and you make $2,000, and you feel like a millionaire.
Right. And really, it's only pocket money.
Yeah. Yes, we're simple. We're simple people at simple times.
Yeah. It's funny, we brought up promotions a little while ago, but it's funny, these guys, they have these big investors or whatever, and people, you know, these guys are these promoters who run these companies and are having these big investors who are giving a bunch of money. They don't seem to realize that they're not making money. Just because you have someone giving you money doesn't mean you're making any. You have to eventually pay that back. You know, I hear all these shows like, oh, we have this investor and that investor, but you have a 5,000 seat arena that you're only putting like 800 people in. So how can you possibly?
And how good of an investor could he be if he's just giving you money and not wanting anything back?
Right. There's no such thing.
You know what I mean?
Right.
Yeah, it's like no one gives it away.
Yeah.
You know what I mean? And you see it all the times too, like when when guys get involved with it.
Right.
You know, they're I'm in it for the love, but eventually, you love it, but you can't keep losing money.
Yeah.
And all the work and all the time and all the nightmares. And commissions are nightmares, dealing with commissions. They're like basically like dealing with cops. I'm a bouncer.
Right.
You know what I mean? When the cops come in and I got to deal with the cops, that's kind of like dealing with the commission. You know what I mean? And you're dealing with all those people.
I'm just curious, do you see it getting better? Like, right now, we're still in a very early stage of this sport, you know?
Yeah, we're in the baby stage, man. We're in the baby stage. No, I think there's a lot of... you know, there's always going to be problems, right? Like, you know, and I say that, I got to take that back a little bit because I said something mean about commission, so I got to say something nice now. So I make it 50-50. There is some great guys in commission. You know what I mean? There's a guy actually in Penticton here that I see often, and you know, there is some great people involved. And it's just funny to me that you get all these commission people involved, and they never really fought. You know what I mean? They're telling fighters how to fight, but they've never fought. Well, how does that work?
Right.
You know what I mean? Like, how is that going to work? Like, you know, there's some of the new MMA rules they have out in BC here. Oh, they're ridiculous for the amateurs. Like, they can't punch on the head on the ground. What's the point of that? Like, you know what I mean? You're just developing bad habits
Right.
And it's actually more dangerous because if a guy was a good striker, he would knock down a grappler, and instead of falling into him to the ground and finishing him like in normal fashion, he's going to stand up and get the guy to get back up to his feet and like hit him with a head kick.
Right.
You know what I mean?
Right.
Like it's and the reason it is, and I was in Calgary when they first made these rules, and I remember I was living with Nick Ring, who fights in the UFC, and they were asking Nick, "Oh, what should we do with the rules?" And he's like, "Well, don't do that. Don't do that." What do? They switch to those rules.
Right.
You know what I mean? That's
right.
like what. Here you got a guy in the UFC that's been through the sport, knows the sport, like you know what I mean? Knows the city. He's giving you good advice. No, just ignore him because you know better because you've never. You know, it'll be a lady who's never even sparred.
Right, right.
You know what I mean?
Yeah.
Like, you're a lady who's never sparred, and you're trying to tell us, well, how it is.
Yeah.
How does that work?
Yeah.
That's just the makings of disaster.
Yeah, with these commissions, it's so weird because had Nick Ring said, "Hey, you know what? These are great. You guys are doing awesome. These are great rules. I love what you're doing." He would become the endorsed guy. Like, oh, UFC fighter Nick Ring said we're doing great. And now, since he disagreed, then they're going to do it regardless. They just kind of wanted just tell us how great we are. One of those kind of deals.
Yeah, that's it. And that's kind of thought how when he was explaining to me how he kind of took it. Mm-hmm. Like he's like, why would you ask me that?
Yeah.
You know what I mean?
We're gonna do it anyways, but just tell us how great we are. Like let's try to impress ourselves. Like, hey, this guy told us we're doing great, so. We're going to do it anyways, but
too, you get a lot of those commission people. I find too, they're there and they think it's about them. It's like, man, you're nothing. It's about the show. It's about the fights. Like, just stay out of the fucking way and shut up and make sure everyone doesn't break the rules.
Yeah.
You know what I mean? They're giving these big speeches before you know, and telling us not to swear and spit.
Right.
It's like, yeah, we know that. Right. I've been told that a million times.
Right. Everyone wants their fingerprints on this sport any way they can,
yeah,
regardless of what.
I agree. They do. And they all want to... Well, there's something really exciting about it, right? Mm-hmm. You go to a fight card and, you know, you start to... And you know what I always go back to and I watch it on TV? But the UFC in Toronto... Mm-hmm. The big one in the Sky Dome. Well, they don't call it the Sky Dome anymore. They call it the Rogers Centers or whatever. Yeah. But like I watched that one on TV. Like the electricity in that building and the entertainment of those fights. Like that was just like what an incredible night, right? So obviously, when you see something like that, obviously everyone wants their finger on it, right? Because they just want to be a part of something wicked, right? Right. You know. And there's some about live fights, man. Like, I remember I seen Jake Ellenberger knock out Pele with an overhand right with, it was 9 seconds into the fight up in Prince George. And it was just it's like you just seen Jesus Christ or something. Right. You know what I mean? It was, pretty remarkable energy and feeling of just wow, what did I just see?
Right. Right. And that's what the sport brings on a constant basis. You never know what's going to happen. There's all these guys, I know that he's going to lose this fight, but then something crazy happens.
And it's crazy, too, that you think, who would have thought, this is the example I always use, when Crow Cop got knocked out by the head kick by
Gabriel Gonzaga.
I think it was.
Gabriel Gonzaga.
How crazy was that?
Yeah.
That was the most unbelievable thing ever. It was no way a gi jiu-jitsu guy just knocked out the legendary head kicker with a head kick. Right. And I'd never even seen that guy throw a head kick.
Right. Yeah.
You know what I mean? It wasn't like he was some flexible 185er jiu-jitsu guy that you never see him throw a head kick, but you can imagine he pulled it off.
Right. Right.
Just crushed him with it.
And what's crazy about that was he gave him a taste of his own medicine. Crow Cop is the guy who's head kicking guys. Sometimes we see, this jiu-jitsu guy go against the striker and then the jiu-jitsu guy knocks him out. But this was Crow Cop getting Crow Copped. It was crazy.
Yeah, dude. Yeah, I'll never forget that. I remember watching it live and just be like, holy. And Crow Cop would come over with so much hype. Those old Pride days, when those Pride guys started coming over, that was a pretty crazy time, man.
Right. Yeah, that was a great time. I feel bad for the people who were getting into it now.
It was really, You know, and the UFC's kind of got, you know, it's changed from now. Now it's way more cards, and you know, the UFC is still great though, and in all these other promotions too. There's so many good fighters out there.
Yeah,
you know what I mean. There's no shortage of good fighters, man. When I go to gyms, you know, all these guys are good. When I go to cards, you know, a lot of cards, you know, I see lots of shitty guys too. Don't get me wrong.
Right.
There's lots of guys that are clueless, but overall, I think there's a lot of good gyms. You know, like down in California, how many good gyms are down there? Like, holy smokes! And those gyms are full too, full of good guys. You know, maybe not like future UFCers, but like, you know, some high level guys. Even the guys at my gym, you know, you come into Toshido and train. There's some guys, you know, maybe even, you know, a couple of them have been retired from a bit or whatever, but you know, it's impressive their capabilities and abilities.
I don't really buy into this whole oversaturation debate. I mean, of course, I'm weird. You know, I just love this sport. I'm a maniac, so I'm not really the kind of guy.
More fights the merrier.
Yeah, more the merrier. That's how I look at it. And really, it's a great thing because now there's so much opportunities for people to fight on TV. We're being exposed to guys who we would have never been exposed to because maybe there wasn't the big shows or the networks weren't buying into MMA, and now we're getting to see all these fights. So the more the merrier. That last weekend when you had UFC 180, Bellator 131, and World Series of Fighting 15, that was like the greatest night of my life.
I had three different fight cards. I had Bellator, UFC prelims, and I had some other one all on my DVR, like World Series of Fighting. Yeah. I had all three DVRs when I came home from work at 3 in the morning. Ask me how stoked I was.
Yeah, it was great. It was great.
It was glorious. Yeah. It was a glorious evening.
And you could make the case that some of the other cards were better than the UFC. Like, I wouldn't say, you know, I wouldn't debate you on it if you said, oh, you know, the top 3 fights in World Series of Fighting were better than the UFC card, or the Bellator card was better than UFC, or World Series of Fighting was better than Bellator.
Something good going on.
They're good. It was crazy.
They got good fighters.
Yeah, it was such a great night. And I don't really like talking about this oversaturation because I think it's just people thinking about themselves. You know, these journalists who say, oh, you know, this oversaturation, all this. Well, you're just thinking about yourself. Oh, I have to go cover all this. Well, you're not fighting. Who cares? Stop crying.
Yeah.
You're not
and I think, too, like, you know what I mean? Like, obviously, you know, there's guys still fighting for even the UFC, like, if guys don't like it, like, if some of those guys, especially if anyone at 205 in the UFC doesn't like their pay or grade, I'll take it.
Right.
You know what
There's
I mean?
always
like,
someone.
You know, like, and it's just the honesty of it too. And even my next fight against Rodney Ross, do I wish I was making more money? Well, of course I do, but am I going to not take the fight because of the money? No, I'm going to be there. I'm going to be there in shape and ready to. I'll be just as prepared as if I was getting paid $1 million and $1 million.
Right.
You know what I mean? So it's just the way she goes. And oversaturation, there's no way. There's just so many good UFC. And you know, look, I seen Lenny Wheeler. I trained with him a little bit. Like, he just had a fight, I think, in Thailand somewhere. Right. You know what I mean? Like, there's fights happening everywhere, and people are going to them and enjoying them.
Right.
You know, you go to those fights, like, you ever been to when I go to, like, Red Deer, to a fight card in Red Deer? Man, that's a wicked crowd, wicked energy. You know, they're all enjoying it.
Yeah, it's great. I can't stand when people talk about, oh, there's so much and all this. It's just people.
And you know, just because you don't know everyone on the card doesn't mean it's a bad card.
Right. But how are you going to get exposed to guys if there's not a bunch of fights? Like, there's so many guys out there that will never.
They need, and there's lots of guys already complaining how they're not getting enough fights.
Right.
Do you know what I mean? Like, there's already, for the largest complaint is probably like fight. You know, guys need more action, right?
Right.
Fights. Well, how are you going to do that with less cards? Like, you know, and you can have like a 20 fight card. It's too long.
Right.
You know, you get 10. And no one wants to go to like 14 hours of fighting.
Right.
Who wants to, you know what I mean? I don't want to have sex for 14 hours.
Right.
I mean, like get out of here, you know?
Right.
Like, it's allotted time and boom. And I think quick cards are better anyways. Like, I think when you go there and the fights are boom, 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 basically.
Right.
You know, no intermissions. Just let them
Yeah.
Rip them off. 3 hours? Like, I think if you can get all your fights done in 3 hours, that's pretty good. No, obviously some of those UFC cards are going to get way longer than that, but that's UFC too. You know what I mean? They're on a totally different scope of the fight cards I'm on.
Right.
Different world.
It's all about amount of fights and the pacing. We can't have 10 fights, but we have 30 minutes in between fights. Sitting around just staring at ourselves.
Oh, dude, I know. Well, on the one time when I fought on that VFL, I had to be there at 5. And me and Jesse Taylor squared off in the main event. I remember looking at the clock. It was 2:30 in the morning.
Yeah, crazy. Yeah, it's
bizarre, crazy. Man. But I will say that in BFL's defense, I was just down at their last card. I had a couple teammates fight on it, and it ran tight and smooth. And they fixed that. They took that glitch out. You know what I mean? They had a big fight card again. It was like 16 fights, but they just ran them. Boom, boom, boom. As soon as one was done, the next guys were in. You know what I mean? And I think that's way better.
Yeah. But
there's booze and stuff. Like, sometimes they're trying to get people to booze. And then I've been to fights, too. I've been to a fight card Calgary where they were down to, like, 5 fights. Or 4 fights, I think. It was ridiculous. And so, they had to, like, drag it out. But it was a good card. It was at a really exciting main event. And had a KO in the 3rd round. So all works out in the end.
Yeah. It's just there's so much good MMA out there. There's so many great fighters out there. Like, hey, let's give everybody a shot here. Let's watch it all. I don't understand the debate here. It's all good stuff.
Yeah, and it's funny too. And then at the end of the day, I find too, like, sometimes when guys start getting, it's like, let's just fight. Fight and watch the fight and fight. But I find sometimes guys just get a little caught up in the other stuff.
Mm-hmm. Yeah. Definitely. And of course, my perspective on things are a little bit different because this is the only sport. I mean, I follow kickboxing a lot, Glory. They're doing a lot of great things, but that's all I watch. All I watch is fighting. I don't really tune into football or basketball or baseball. I couldn't tell you.
Yeah, no, I'm the same way, dude. I used to be into hockey and baseball, but since fighting's taken over, yeah. Like, I still maybe, like, catch the odd, like even when I'm bouncing, I work in a pub, so I'll see, some sports on the TV, and, I kind of know the basics, but, yeah, no, I'm all MMA, and I'm the same. I watch a little bit of Glory, too, but it's, I like MMA.
Right.
There's something about it that makes it wicked.
Right.
I can't get enough of it.
Right. It's the best drug in the world. I can't. I'm addicted. I can't get off it.
Yeah, dude. Yeah, and that's funny you say that because it was actually how I actually it led me to jiu-jitsu, but I was, I had a bit of a drinking problem and a drug problem, and I decided to get my act, straightened up, and I quit, and I had all this extra time, and I didn't know what to do, and that was, like, became my new drug, was, like, going to jiu-jitsu, and then that eventually evolved into MMA and stuff like that, and that's how I feel this, too. Like, if I go a day or two without training, ask my wife, I'm a grouchy son of a bitch,
Mm-hmm.
I need to get some aggression out and watch some, and especially, too, like, how fun some nights is sitting down and watching the UFC.
Right.
Like, to me, that, I know everyone likes their own thing, but to me, someone sitting down and enjoying a good UFC, there's nothing better.
Right. And I love how it's week to week to week, because once when one event ends, I'm already looking forward to the next one. Like, I can't wait for the next event to come. Like, I hear these people talking about oversaturation, but, it was Sunday, and I'm like, all right, when's Frankie Edgar fighting Cub Swanson? Like, I can't wait for it.
And some of the ones you get free, too. Like, it's like, you can't believe the fights you're getting free, you know what I mean? And it's really exciting, too, when there's, like, some guy, he's maybe not a big name yet, but he's a guy or you trained with, or, you know what I mean, you say you interviewed or whatever, and, he's on the bottom of the card, but you get it on some, fight night prelims, that's wicked, that's really cool when you can get that. And we're watching on Fight Pass, too, there's that Fight Pass now, so... And in most of the other promotions too, you can get a stream or something. It's that's what's really cool too about our time too, is the technology.
Right.
To see fights and stuff too, like it's crazy.
Right, and especially with the internet, the sport, it lives on the internet.
Oh yeah, dude.
I don't know if this.
It wouldn't have grown it.
Right. I was just going to say that. Yep. If we were, this was 1970, I don't know what the sport would look like, without the internet.
You think about jiu-jitsu, actually learning jiu-jitsu moves off of YouTube.
Yeah.
That's crazy. A huge tool, man. I don't care what anyone says. You know what I mean? People always talk about, the heritage of their professors and all this garbage.
Right.
Go on YouTube, man.
Right.
and, you still have to figure it out, decipher it a bit.
Right.
You know what I mean? It's not, not everything on there is gold by any means. But,
right.
man,
right.
there was, think about in the, in the 90s. You know what I mean? And you wanted to learn how to armbar. Man, if I want to learn how to armbar, I just have to go on my phone, go to my YouTube app,
right.
hit armbar, and then I can even request who teaches me. I can get Ronda Rousey armbar, or I can get, Saulo Ribeiro fucking armbar.
And it's crazy now. People are actually modeling their business after that. Eddie Bravo has a service. You pay $3.99 a month, and he gives you all his stuff.
And you know what? Those Mendez brothers have one too. And my buddy went over to his house, and he was showing it to me. Yeah, man. Yeah. And actually, a buddy of mine years and years ago was telling me that was going to be a huge thing. He's kind of a goofball hippie, but he was telling me he thought that's where the teaching of martial arts was going, and he's probably a little bit onto it. And the one thing is, though, you can always learn better live, usually. You know what I mean? So it's as good of it is as a tool, it's still not the same as, you know what I mean?
But if you're a guy who doesn't have much money and is in a different part of the world.
Sure, and you say some of these guys live in the middle of nowhere.
Right.
And sometimes they can get a couple, I know where, you live in the middle of nowhere, but you got a buddy down the street that loves to, wrestled in high school for a month or something.
Right.
You know what I mean?
Yeah, something like that.
And you guys can just, get down there and figure it out your own. Obviously, are you going to become a black belt in a year? Probably not. But are you going to have a fun time and learn? And if your moves work, it's one of the cool thing about this sport. They either work or they don't.
Right.
I mean, if I throw a big overhand right and it looks awesome and it connects right on your jaw and it does nothing, well, it sucks. It doesn't matter, right?
Right.
If I throw a sloppy one with my elbow up and I'm pushing the punch and it clips you on your jaw and knocks you out, I'm the man, cool guy.
Right.
You know what I mean? You can, but obviously there is, you want to do things technically properly, but it's just so black and white. It either works or it doesn't. You know what I mean? If you show me a move and you tell me it's the greatest move in the world, and I do it exactly how you show me and it never works,
right.
Well, then, what good is it, right?
Right. I went to a jiu-jitsu seminar a while back, and I can't remember the guy's name. I feel bad, but he said a lot of good things, and I can't remember his name. But he said when Ken Shamrock fought against Hoist Gracie, he did a sloppy heel hook. He said had that worked, everyone would be doing a sloppy heel hook. It's crazy.
Yeah, and you look back at those old leg logs.
Yeah.
We really work on my gym at Toshido. We heel hook each other every day. We're an MMA gym, so we heel hook each other every day. You know what I mean? That's we're not one of those gyms that don't do heel hooks.
Right.
The stuff Ken Shamrock and those guys were doing in the back of the day were so sloppy.
Right.
It was you know what I mean? It was the sloppiest, you know, it was Juicer just trying to twist your ankle off, basically.
Right.
He didn't really fucking know what he was doing. Don't let him kid you, you know? Don't let him convince you of different.
Right.
Obviously he's hit some pads and done some knees and done some leg locks and wrestled lots, but still, it's so untechnical.
Right. One of my favorite finishes of all time is Carlos Newton against Pat Miletich. That old school headlock. I guess they call it a bulldog choke.
Yeah. Bulldog choke. Yeah.
I don't know why more and more guys aren't pulling that off, because Carlos Newton did it to Pat Miletich, and at that time, Pat Miletich was God. He was one of the... And I don't know why more and more guys...
He does have a bad neck, though, too.
Yeah, that's true. That's true.
He's always had a bad neck, so I know if you clamp on his neck, he's... You know what I mean?
Yeah.
It definitely does work, but there's lots of good options from there. When you get that guy in that position, he's open to a lot, right? So it's it depends too, right? It's fine too. There's sometimes too, I trained with a guy, Josh Kitchen. I just laughing at him. He just had a new baby, and he's a crazy hunter, and he putting on pictures of Facebook with him and his guns and his baby. But anyways, he used to do a head and arm choke from bottom half guard. Mm-hmm. And he actually won a fight with it. I was at it. He won a fight with it. It shouldn't work.
I was at a local show, a small show. Paul Bradley, he fights in Bellator right now, but he fought in the UFC. Yeah. He pulled off one of those mounted. He was on the bottom. He was mounted by whoever he was fighting, and he got that on his back arm triangle. The craziest thing I ever saw.
Crazy.
Yeah.
And the guy just must have not known, right?
Yeah. We were sitting in the media section, and everyone's like, oh, what is he doing? He's just wasting energy. He's on the bottom. He's going to lose this fight. What is he doing? And then all of a sudden, the guy's asleep.
He put him right out?
Yeah, it was crazy. It was the craziest thing I ever saw.
Then that's legit.
Yeah.
Well, but the thing is, he's probably done it lots in the gym.
Oh,
probably.
Yeah.
I can't say for sure, but I'm assuming.
Yeah.
You know what I mean?
For sure.
Because, especially to go for something like that in that kind of situation and put a guy out, mm-hmm. You're the luckiest man on earth, or that's something you've drilled, because that's usually how it goes. Because even, like I said, with that kitchen, it was like kind of the same thing. He's on, not quite mounted, but half guard off the bottom. It's the same thing. Like, it shouldn't work, but puts guys out with it, so it makes it legit. Just has to work to be legit.
Yeah, for sure. A lot of crazy moves out there that
Yeah, it's cool. It's cool. It never ends. Yeah. I always think there's that's going to be it. You know what I mean? I always think that, but there's always something. And then I find it's usually something old, but just tweaked in a new way.
Mm-hmm. Right.
You know what I mean? Like I see all these. It's something I've seen it before, but it's just a different. Instead of having your hand to the right shoulder, you have it on the left shoulder. You know what I mean? It's just a little adjustment.
Right. And it's usually always a move that people have forgotten about. Like, it went away for a while, and then when you see it again, why aren't we using this?
Totally.
Yeah. It's one of those. So.
And I trained with, that Sheila Bird, and she uses that Sheila choke. We call it like leg scissor, and she put out Kim Couture with it.
Oh yeah, she's
down there. And that, man, when we went to the FILA World Grappling Championships in Serbia, and we ended up just taking a whole bunch of guys from our gym because Brian was the coach, and the team kind of there's a bit of just ended up having a whole bunch of our guys from the gym go, right. So they're all guys I knew, and they're all guys that were familiar with that scissor choke. And man, they were just killing guys with that whole tournament. Mm-hmm. Our guys probably used it 6 or 7 times, for finishes too. In straight grappling matches.
Yeah.
And that's right there. People always lots of times will say, "Oh, that's not a legit move." And it's just well, I know it is a legit move.
Right.
Because I was at a World Championships, and I seen it work 6 times where it actually ended the fight. You know what I mean? So, or the match, or whatever you want to call it. So.
Right. People only believe it when they see it. So many times, these guys, you say, "Oh, this move," and they say, "Ah, it doesn't work." But it's because they're just going off of what what they think, what their perception of things are. They usually have never seen it if they're.
Yeah, and we have that too. Sometimes when you see new things and it's really foreign, you want to reject it.
Right.
You know what I mean?
Right.
We're all guilty of that.
Yeah.
There's so many times I've been showing new things, and my first reaction is, go fuck yourself. That's what I want to say to that move. You know.
Right.
Then you give it some time and you think, okay, yeah. And that's usually the thing is like I said earlier, proof's in the pudding. If you use it and it works. It's good, man.
Right.
There's no, you know what I mean? I can't be, if I got some move and I'm constantly dropping guys with it and someone comes up and tells me it sucks, there might be, you always want to be leery of openings and stuff. You're always, in this sport, especially in MMA, you always want to be critiquing and you always want to be making little adjustments, right? Because it just takes a few days of not sparring.
Right.
You get sloppy hands.
Right.
You go to a sparring session and...
Right.
Count how many times you get hit.
Right.
You know what I mean? It'll be a lot.
Right.
You know what I mean? So you have to worry about that kind of stuff too.
And especially in this sport, every move has a counter, and every counter has a counter. So you have to,
yeah, and that's the thing. Like sometimes, you guys are like 13, 14 steps ahead of you.
Right.
You know what I mean?
Right.
Like they're, they got 10 things going on in 4 different directions.
Right. Right.
Yeah, but that's what makes it cool, like I said, too. That's what makes it.
And there's so many guys who, they have a problem sheet for everything they do. So if I throw this strike and he does this, well, then I'm just going to go with that. Like, I've trained it, so if he does, off his reaction, I'll do this. Like, I saw Boss Rutan do a great breakdown where the guy who, I can't remember the 2 guys who were fighting, but the guy who ended up winning the fight had like 6 steps that he was going to do. So he started with a flying knee into the clinch, and then he did like a little trip, and then once he got to the trip, he immediately went to the mount, and then from the mount went to an arm triangle, like boom, boom, boom. Like that was what he said. That's what he was setting up from the start. And it was crazy. And when
someone gets that ball rolling on you, like when you're on the defense of that,
right.
It's tough, man. That can be tough. You can really, when someone's coming at you like that, it can be a terrifying feeling, I guess.
Right. And game planning is so crucial.
Yeah, it's big, man. Well, just fighting smart and just fighting to your strengths is the biggest thing, right? Fighting to your strengths.
Right.
And fighting smart because, like, there's that point, too, where, like, you see it constantly in MMA. Even when Melvin Manhoef lost to Robbie Lawler, like, some guy will be, like, totally dominating the stand-up.
Right.
Like, there's no way he's going to get clipped. Boom, he gets clipped.
Right.
When you got a guy on his back, he can sub you, for sure, but it's tough. And his punches off the bottom do nothing. It still cracks me up how people don't realize that. If I put you on your back, you can punch up me at, like, 30 times, and I'll trade you for one good one coming down the pipe. You know what I mean? Because gravity. Those punches coming up, they're just like slaps. You know what I mean? They got nothing. You can't generate any power behind them. There's just nothing on them, right?
Right.
But when you're coming down the can inside someone's guard with a big, powerful punch, and you use gravity and rotate your body into it, it's crazy.
Mm-hmm. Definitely. There's
and it's like you think about you're fighting someone and they're able to punch you and they got nothing on it and all your punches are like death defying and they can't barely move either because their back's on the mat, so you know what I mean. It's not like on stand up where they can run away from you, jump back in, or circle out. You know what I mean? So there's definitely that factor too. But then some guys just don't get the ground, right? So they got to keep standing, or choose not to be there too, because you can fight any way you want. You know what I mean? At the end of the day, if you want to just go out there, and I've done it before, where I'm, when I fought Caleb here, I wasn't gonna, try and take him down.
Right.
Everyone wanted to see us stand and bang. Well, let's stand and bang. I was at a stage in my career where I thought, I'm either going to knock this guy out or he's going to knock me out. That's just the way it is.
Right. And that's always a fascinating thing for me. Like, some guys come in there with a game plan, and then I think, well, will their opponent will their opponent stand with them? Will their opponent follow them to the ground? There's all these times these guys say, oh, I'm just going to take him down and sub him. Well, is your opponent going to play on the ground with you? Like is he going to be?
Yeah, it's crazy. And does he know how to deal with it?
Right.
Like sometimes when guys get a guy down, they don't know how to get back up to their feet.
Right.
You know what I mean? Like in a safe manner. You know what I mean? So they're all like panic stricken down in there. They want to get back up to their feet, but they don't really know how to do it.
Right.
You got this guy climbing all over him.
Yeah. It's a fascinating beast we have here. There's so many ways to win and lose,
awesome.
and there's
it's awesome. And I love it. I don't get bored with it at all.
Right, and it's
love learning new things.
Yeah, it's a very fascinating sport because a lot of people just think, oh, it's just a fight. Just go kick his ass. Simple. What game planning, all this stuff. But
and they got him down. They yell, "Stand up!"
Yeah,
stand up. Just stand up.
there's way more to it. It's really a science. They call boxing the sweet science, but this is taking that to a whole new level. This is that's
that thing too, like where I was saying to you about, like, if you're really good too, and you're like say lots of guys, they go out there and they start standing with each other and they're not threatening takedowns at all. Mm-hmm. And it's just like, so why would you do that? It's not a kickboxing fight. You got to go in there and threaten a few. You know what I mean? The guy should be scared of getting put on his back. Because if you put him on his back, you're going to drop some bombs on his face, right? But lots of guys, they can't, get that part of it too, right? And it's terrifying when you're in an MMA fight and you're all tired and some guy puts you on your back. You worry about that.
Right.
Right. So and lots of guys, they can't, like, they don't put the whole. It's a big game of chess, right? They don't use the whole board. But sometimes, like I said, sometimes there's guys, they just want to go in there and bang. Mm-hmm. That's what they want to do. Right. So that's what you want to do. Yeah. That's fine too. But I think to give yourself the best odds is to be the most well-rounded martial artist, because I tell you, when you're the last time I fought, even say Dwayne Lewis, the second time we fought, I was threatening takedowns, punching him, threatening takedowns, punching, threatening takedowns. Like, after he said to me, he was like, man, I never knew what you were going to do.
Right.
Like, yeah.
That's what you got to do.
Well, I'm guessing.
Yeah, that's what you got to do. Uriah Faber does that great.
Oh, yeah, he's awesome. He
always mixes it up.
But some of those guys, like Chris Lieben, he was never going for takedowns too, but he was pretty entertaining to watch too.
And he's got a very...
everyone having different fighters makes it exciting, right? Like, if everyone was like Chael Sonnen, it would be boring.
Right.
But one Chael Sonnen is fucking wicked. That's plenty.
But you brought up Chris Lieben, and he has a very underrated ground game. He's really good at jiu-jitsu.
Very, very. I just watched, I was watching old fights at work the other night, and when he triangled Akiyama.
Oh, yeah.
Yeah, it was great. Yeah, he's got really, and like, you could tell, like, he's got the full boatload of skills.
Right.
But he just wants to go in there and chuck, and he's got a wicked chin, so it works good for him.
Right.
You know what I mean? Like, and like a guy like Vinny Magalesh or something, like, he's not going to fight like that. Some guy with a questionable chin. You know what I mean? You gotta fight to your strength.
Right. And there's so many people.
I will say too, I thought Chris Lieben was really exciting. Like, when he came back on Terry Martin, I thought.
Oh yeah. His comeback.
I thought that was like the coolest fight I've ever seen.
Yeah, he's definitely one of the all-time greats. Lieben never held a belt, but hey. You don't have to be a great to hold the belt.
He's too down. And like one of those guys too, well-rounded. That guy. If that guy gave me jiu-jitsu or wrestling or striking or any type of advice,
and evolving. At the beginning of his career, he was just a brawler, a guy who stood in the center of the ring and swinging for the fences. But then over time, I need to add, if I'm going to make a run at this, I got to add all these other skills.
And I think he put in a guy who put the work in.
Right.
You know what I mean? That put the time in the gym. You know what I mean? And that's really what it's about when it's all said and done too. Is that you put the time in the gym, because it doesn't matter how good of an athlete you are. Mm-hmm. You got to put the time in the gym and learn the sport. Even Bones Jones, like, obviously he's like so gifted, but he's like training with the best dudes all day, every day.
Right.
Well, in camp, anyways. I know. He says when he's at the camp, he's just basically shadowboxing. But you got to put the time in. That's how you get better. Mm-hmm. Lots of hard work.
Yeah. You brought up John Jones. And I always think about this, like, even at his gym, I'm sure there's someone who gets the best of him sometime. I'm sure he's gotten tapped out. I'm sure he's gotten taken down. I'm sure he's gotten dropped.
For sure.
Like,
especially the guys they're bringing in. Like, they're not bringing in fucking guys for him to tap out.
Right.
They're bringing out guys, so I'm sure he's getting, caught. And, he'd have to be. If you're not really improving. So,
Yeah. It's a very interesting game because there's all these guys. He's a world champion kickboxer. He's some jiu-jitsu world champion. But then some of their stuff doesn't work in MMA. A lot of the stuff has to be tailored for MMA. You have to change your striking. You have to change the way you grapple because it's a different beast. When you're in a jiu-jitsu tournament, there's no strikes. When you're in a kickboxing match, there's no takedowns. There's no submissions. Some people get lost in that. Some fans, some journalists, they just look, okay, this guy's a jiu-jitsu world champion, he's going to get into the ground and sub him. But what about the other parts of the game? This guy's a kickboxer, isn't he just going to stand and knock him out?
Yeah. It's it can be, and like we said earlier with the one with the Crow Cup getting head kicked,
right.
It's crazy.
Yeah. Well, Clay, this has gone a very long time. I thought maybe 15 to 20 minutes, but I just got carried away. I really enjoyed talking
awesome,
to you.
Man. I got the gift of gab, bro.
Yeah.
I got the gift of gab.
You definitely do. You definitely do. This was very enjoyable for me. I really appreciate your time. And
no problem. I really enjoyed it too. You seem like a real cool guy, and I enjoyed your point of view, and that was nice. I enjoyed doing it. Anytime, man.
Okay, and best of luck coming up on December 12th against Rodney Wallace. I think this is going to be a very good fight.
Awesome, yeah, I'm expecting to put on a show. Thank you so very much, and all the best.